Another horrific punishment, it is stoning to death for unlawful sexual intercourse. In modern Arabic, it is known as zina. So, what is zina in modern Arabic? Okay, modern Arabic, what is zina? It is unlawful sexual intercourse. According to traditional Islamic jurisprudence, zina can include adultery, that is, married parties, fornications, unmarried parties, prostitution, rape, sodomy, homosexuality, things like that, and incestuous. Okay. Some Muslim scholars explain zina as prohibited act, whether it is sexual intercourse or even a look, talk, touch, or desire that may lead to a sexual relation. It is due to their misunderstanding of zina. Think about it. How come a single word could be used for so many different things? Think about it. According to Islamic jurisprudence, zina has two rulings. If a married man has sexual intercourse with someone other than his wife, then his punishment is stoning. Adultery punishment is stoning to death. If an unmarried man has sexual intercourse with someone's wife, then his punishment is 100 lashes, whereas she will get the death penalty because she was married at the time of offense. Okay, see, this is the second important thing. If an unmarried man has sexual intercourse with someone's wife, then his punishment is 100 lashes, whereas she will get the death penalty because she was married at the time of offense. In most of the Shia's version of Islam, if an unmarried man has sexual intercourse 4 times, then he should be killed. So this is a basic, pretty much basic ruling regarding zina. Okay. They created these punishment to show others that they are very pure and clean people. They cannot tolerate someone's sexual immoral behavior. Okay, I'm not favoring adultery or fornication here. I'm just giving you their perspectives. And I understand that sexual immorality is a very bad thing. But the worst thing is to take someone's life over it. And it is way more wicked when they say God commanded such punishments. We believe God is the most merciful, but they do not. They portray him as very cruel God. First, they attributed lies to him, and then they tried to justify them with brainless or foolish reasonings. Let me show you how. This is offender criteria in case of adultery or fornication. You may read it. The offender must be sane, they must be Muslim, male or female, they have reached the age of puberty, they must be free and not a slave. Imagine number 4 criteria. Now look at the witness criteria. There should be at least 4 witnesses, mostly male only. In some countries, female testimony is accepted, but mostly male only. Each one of them should be credible, free Muslim. Each one of them should have eyewitness, the actual act of intercourse, that is, actual penetration. I cannot believe it. Well, each one of them should testify the same hearing about the zina, sexual intercourse act. Any disagreement between the witnesses between them leads to the rejection of accusation. These standards are very strict and cannot be fulfilled. Okay, especially number 3 criteria, that four people have to eyewitness actual sex, that is penetration. It is totally impractical. Like I said before, they portray God as being so cruel, then they try to whitewash it. They believe stoning punishment is for deterrent only, to discourage people and scare them off so they stay away from it. They think God think just like them. The same thing God want as well. First of all, God never ordered stoning punishment for anyone, no matter what their crime is. And He does not send any commandments that are impractical and impossible to enforce. Look at these criteria. You think it can be enforced? By giving few people stoning punishment and sparing others for the same crime just to create panic in a public is actually injustice. They do not understand that. Well, despite these tough standards, you believe it or not, people still get the death penalties in Muslim countries because it always depends on the person who is in charge. So, end of the day, judges are deciding what to do. Well, this standard summary is somewhat similar in all Muslim school of thoughts, but again, not exactly the same. Each Muslim country does not have exactly the same Islamic laws. There is no such thing as one Islam. There are some Muslim countries where Sharia has no role at all, yet they are Muslim countries. Some countries' judicial system are mixed with common laws and Sharias. In fact, several Muslim countries adopted Sharia in the mid 20th century, like uh, from 1930 to 1980, somewhere there. Examples are Libya, Pakistan, Iran, Sudan, Yemen, etc. What takes them so long? If these countries were Muslim majority for centuries, why do they reintroduce Sharia? It should have been in their legal system from a long time, right? But there are no traces of it. See, modern Islam, what you see around you, is evolved in past 2 centuries. Muslim claim to be 1400 years old is baseless because if you read just 19th century books of their scholars, you will always find change in theology and their ideology. Older books you read, more older books you read, more change you will notice. When modern Muslims claim they have the same beliefs from the time of Muhammad, like 1400 years ago, trust me, it is not possible at all. Because there is number one thing, there is no physical evidence for it. Even if we go back just 500 years, there is no way all of those people had the same belief as today's Muslims. There are many reasons. So So where are the 15th 15th century Sharia books that might be used back then in court of law, so we can compare them with today's Sharia books? Where are those books? 15th century Sharia books. What if back then people had a different concept of being Muslim? What if? What if back then people called themselves Muslim just to draw a line between them and idol worshippers? And later their second generation was attracted to modern Islamic theology. What if the word Muslim was commonly used for believers only, like nowadays word believer, English word believer we used in English for Jews, Christian and Muslims alike, despite their differences in beliefs? What if back then, you know, Muslim was only commonly used for represent a believer only, and now it is shaped to something theological Muslim or traditional Muslim. The same idea behind word has been changed. What? What if back then people believe in Muhammad just like other messengers, Moses, Jesus, Noah, Abraham, etc., or Abraham, not necessarily taking him more seriously over other prophets, or him being the last one among the prophets? What if? There should be, I would say, there should be hundred thousands of old mosques built around 1500, 1600 AD. Where are they? I'm not talking about a few here and there, I'm talking about 100,000 of them. Since they claim their forefather was the same Muslim as they are, then they must use mosques for worshipping. Where are those mosques? You cannot find. That is the problem. There is no physical evidence behind this religion. It emerged. It really it really adopted in 18th and 19th century. It is not 1400-year old religion at all. These things are red flags for modern Islamic theology. Let me give you an example of Pakistan. When it was created, there were no Sharia laws. If you ask any Pakistani, he will tell you Pakistan was created for Islam. That's all he knows. If that was the case, then why it took them 8 years to name it the Islamic Republic of Pakistan? Why not at the time of independence? Pakistan was known as the Federal Republic of Pakistan, not the Islamic Republic of Pakistan when it was created. You believe it or not, I call the 20th century the explosion of modern Islam. This is a century when it really expanded everywhere without any resistance. Because back then people did not know much about it. Nowadays, everything about Islam is available. This is one of the reasons why many people are leaving Islam, because everything about it is clear. Back then, people did not know much about it. Okay, there were no books available. Okay, in Pakistan, Sharia punishments were introduced in 1979 by the military ruler Zia. He used Islam, by the way, to stay in power. That's what I always say. You can use Islam for your own benefits. And he did it. And this is the Zina Ordinance of 1979. Because of this, many executions happened in rural areas of Pakistan. It is somewhat derived from Hadith, but again, not fully. Now, these are some of the articles of Iran Penal Code. Reason I'm showing you all this so you you may know that every Muslim country has its own penal code. You may pause and read them. Whatever I show you so far, Muslims believe it is derived from Hadith books, narration of Muhammad and Quran. If you read all of the authentic Hadith sources, you cannot draw this standardized summary, the one I'm showing you here in this video. In fact, most of the Hadiths do not even talk about four witnesses. It is very interesting. Many people who got stoning punishment during the time of Muhammad testified against themselves of adultery. Okay? There are so many ambiguity and contradiction in hadiths of Muhammad that narrations of Muhammad that there is no way you can come up with any conclusions. Whatever are you seeing is the summary. It is basically scholar consensus. Whatever you seeing in this summary, this is a scholar consensus, or you can say their opinion. This is not exactly Muhammad ruling, and it is now nowhere near to Quran commandment. Let me start with Hadith first. I'm going to give you some examples from Hadiths regarding zina. First Hadith in like this, these all are authentic Hadith. All are authentic from their authentic books. First Hadith, a man testify against himself 4 times. In second hadith, you will notice woman testify against herself only one. First, you need to read both of the hadith carefully. You may pause and read it. Okay. And herself only once. In both cases, ruling was stoning punishment. Obviously, by Muhammad. That's what they say. Now, here in the first hadith, slave girl should be flogged 3 times, then sold. And in the second hadith, slave girl should be flogged 3 times or 4 times, then sold. Even the narrators forgot what was the true numbers. Can you believe it? You may read it. Now, in the first hadith, offender, the rapist, must free the victim and he must pay her some price. Now, look at this hadith. Read it carefully. Whereas in second hadith, offender must be stoned to death. Now, these both are two totally different rulings for the same offense. Muslim scholars confuse themselves and they try to confuse Muslims because then they bring you science of hadith. You can say a bigger lie. Okay, I will talk about it in great detail. The so-called science of hadith. Wherever there is a lie, there is a science of hadith. Okay, they try to cover up these lies with the science of hadith. Now, these both are authentic hadiths. Okay, one is talking about the rapist should must free the victim and pay her some price. In the second hadith, stoned to death. So two total different ruling. Let me show you some more. Just read the pause and read this hadith. Let me move to other hadith. Now here, according to the first hadith, Maaz ibn Malik got single punishment, which is stoning to death. Now this one is also very interesting. Maaz ibn Malik got single punishment, which is stoning to death. Whereas in second hadith, okay, now the first hadith is telling you the punishment of Maaz. stoning to death. In the second hadith, a married person got double punishment for the same offense, which is 100 lashes first, then stoning to death. In the first hadith, now here in the first hadith, Muhammad's disciple Umar bin Khattab, also known as second caliph of Islam, enforced 50 lashes instead of 100. I wonder why he did this. Now, in the second hadith, accuser is not getting any punishment at all in this world. He will get his punishment on the day of resurrection. See how much of a mess in the hadith. If I take this hadith seriously, that means there should be no punishment for a person who accuses someone of zina. So at the end, it always depend on me or judge or scholar to decide, because here if you go with this you cannot draw any ruling. That's why you do not see 100% Sharia anywhere, because of this mess. And they call it, this is so called a preservation of tradition of Muhammad. This is, I call, accusation against Muhammad, these hadith. There's so much stuff that you cannot even read with sitting with your families in these hadith books. And yet they blame others of blasphemy. They do not see in their own books the blasphemy against Muhammad. You may also read this hadith. I don't even want to read this hadith. As usual, hadiths grading issues. One scholar says it is authentic, another one says it is weak. You're not gonna believe this work is done recently, the one you seeing here. Even after 1100 years. After 1100 years. So, a hadith expert can challenge any hadith. They can invalidate any hadith. That means it is a theological change. Since we know hadith is a narration of Muhammad. So if someone invalidates it, that means it is a change in theology. This work has been going on for centuries now, according to them. Think about it, how many beliefs have changed so far. Now read these two hadith and see how the hadith writers lied about Muhammad. We all know every prophet of God is merciful. And I always say Muhammad of Quran and Muhammad of Hadith are two different personality. It's not the same person. Because we do not believe any prophet of God could have give such a verdict. Not just that, Hadith also contradict with Quran, and it is obviously big time contradiction with Quran. 95% of Islam is in Hadith. Read these two Hadith. Their doubt about Quran is crystal clear here. See how earlier disciples of Muhammad were sure about stoning verses in the Quran, whereas, okay, you do not find any stoning punishments or punishment in the Quran. Even if you pick a 1,000-year-old copy of Quran, you will not find, you will find same. There is no punishment of stoning in the Quran. These people desperately try to find their religion inside the Quran. And when they do not find their horrible punishments in it, they think Quran has a missing verses. Moving on, beside contradiction in hadith, meaning of zina is also very confusing. Now this is most important. The meaning of zina is also very confusing. It is used for many things. For example, zina can be adultery, fornication, prostitution, rape, sodomy, incestuous. You should know that practically these all are different things. These are not the same things, right? For example, prostitution mean engaging in sexual activity with someone for money. And rape is sexual intercourse that is carried out forcibly. So these two are not the same things. That's why they have different names. We can say all these things can fall under sexual immorality, right? But we cannot say prostitution is same as rape, okay? Or incestuous is the same as sodomy. But they all are the same in Sharia, which is a big problem. Muslim scholar consensus is if a married man or woman commits sexual intercourse, unlawful sexual intercourse, then there is stoning to death punishment for them. And it is called zina, obviously, in Arabic. But if unmarried man or woman commit unlawful sexual intercourse, then they should receive 100 lashes of punishment. And it is also called zina in Arabic. So basically, for the same thing, there are two different rulings. Both are doing sexual intercourse, and it's two different rulings. Not just that, the punishment level also jumped from minor to life taking due to a change in someone's marital status. I mean, if they just increased the number of lashes, it would have been better than taking someone's life. Okay? Anyways, as for rape and incestuous, there are no clear ruling in authentic hadiths. You will find lot of hadiths on adultery, fornication, but very few authentic hadiths on rape. As for incestuous, authentic hadith are silent about it. Okay? In the Quran, you do not find any stoning verses for adultery or fornication. The only punishment for zina is 100 lashes, which is mentioned in Surah Nur, second verse. If you read it in Arabic, the actual text does not say anything about the offender marital status. It only order a punishment of 100 lashes for offender, whoever commit zina. Okay? Muslim scholar translated the word zina as fornication. So whoever is reading it must believe that the punishment is for unmarried man or woman. Since the whole Sharia talk about the death penalty for adultery, obviously, just to prove Sharia is right, they change the translation here. If God did not specify anything about someone's marital status, that means it should be ruled out here. Why scholar did this? Right? You should ask them why they did it. There are many reasons, but I am going to discuss a very few right now. Reason number one is to defend the Sunnah of Muhammad. The only way Muslim scholars could defend the Sunnah of Muhammad is to translate the word zina as fornication, or at least assume God is talking about unmarried person here in the verse, because there are so many hadiths saying of Muhammad that order death penalty for adulterous married man or married woman committing unlawful sexual intercourse. Whereas here in the verse, God only decreed 100 lashes. That would be troublesome. Troublesome. How come any prophet give a verdict against God commandment? Here I want to mention you one thing more quick. It is off of the topic. Muhammad of Hadith and Muhammad in Quran are different personality. They are not the same person. I will talk about them in future with more detail. Now moving on, the reason number 2. According to Muslim scholar, Quran does not have everything in it, leaving no option for Muslims other than believing in Hadith books. Okay, even though they were written way much later after the historical Muhammad, and they are full of contradiction. Yeah, I mean, you cannot draw any laws out of them. And reason number 3 is the following verse of the same Surah Nur, Sahih International Translation. Read it. That is, the fornicator does not marry except a female fornicator or polytheist, and non marry her except a fornicator or polytheist, and that has been made unlawful to the believers. When Muslim scholar noted this uh, very next verse, where God is prohibiting a person who commits zina to marry believers, then they must have thought that an unmarried person could be punished with 100 lashes, because God is talking about marriage here. This is the reason I always say Quran is signed by God. So anyways, let's move on. All these things clearly tell you that Quran was later added to Shia and Sunnis religion. There must be many hadith created at some point to hide this fact. I guarantee you many hadith. They don't have old hadith book where we can tally, where we can look at it and match it with today's hadith book. They don't have any old book, hadith book. And they don't even think about it, why they don't have it. Let's open the Quran and see what it really say about zina and its punishment. First I'm going to show you the meaning of zina according to Quran, which is commonly known as adultery, fornication, prostitution, rape, sodomy and incestuous. This is very important. First, I need to find out the meaning of zina in the Quran, not in Arabic dictionary, but in the Quran. Like I said before, there is no way one word could be used for so many different things. If you really believe that zina can be all of these things, then it means you are seeing God as unjust. And also, you are looking at a big contradiction in the Quran. Okay? If you believe that. Because zina has only one ruling in the Quran. That is Surah Nur, second verse. And it is 100 lashes. You can read all these translations. So there is no way God commands the same punishment for all these immoral things like adultery, fornication, prostitution, rape, etc. Rape is very serious crime and should be dealt with more severely, not just 100 lashes. You do not find rape punishment in the Quran. Now, this does not mean you should depend on Muslim Hadith books. I already showed you Hadith narration of Muhammad have so much ambiguity and contradiction you cannot draw any laws out of them. There are so many laws that are not mentioned in the Quran due to the fact that mankind tends to change with the passage of time, and God knows it. He is the wise. His prophet and messengers, saints always guide believers throughout centuries. But if you believe, like traditional Muslim, that no prophet is coming from God, that means you put yourself in a spot where you got to lie to defend what you believe. You will never come up with solid arguments. You understand? Zina is mentioned in Quran few times in Quran. The these two verses are very important regarding zina. In the first word, God commands us not to approach adultery. Okay. Second is regarding the punishment of zina. So let's start with the first verse and see how scholars translated it. You can see here. So, starting from the first verse, and here is a translation of it by different Muslim scholars. See how they contradict each other. I highlighted two very important words in this verse, that is zina and fahisha. Okay, at the bottom, you are seeing the Arabic dictionary or lexicon. Both words translated into English with somewhat similar meaning, and it is the same way native speakers think of them. Now you look at Muslim scholars' translation and notice they are not going by the Arabic dictionary here. If they go by the Arabic dictionary, then it would be translated something like this: and do not approach unlawful sexual intercourse, indeed it is prostitution and an evil way. Or maybe it could be translated as and do not approach fornication, indeed it is adultery and an evil way. It never makes any sense. This is the reason they purposely translated this verse, and it is the same case with Arabic dictionaries. If you go by the Arabic dictionaries, then it will cause a contradiction in the Quran. Since Quran predates modern Arabic, it has the correct meaning of the words, not the modern Arabic. There are so many, hundred thousands of words in the Quran that modern Arabic took them wrong. If if you ask any Muslim what is zina, he will definitely tell you it is adultery. It is the same with native Arabic speakers. It is the same case with native Arabic speakers. Anyways, Quran itself is a dictionary. It will tell you the right meaning of the word which is used in the Quran. Since these two words are used together in the verse, it tells us there must be a difference between them. They do not have similar meanings. So, what is zina then? Let me translate the whole verse first. And do not approach the zina. Indeed, it was sexual immorality and an astray path. I translated the word fahisha as sexual immorality. Okay, sexual immorality, and that's the way it should be. Word fahisha here is actually the primary word, and it has a wide range of meanings. In English as well as in Arabic, we can say the sexual immorality. In English as well as in Arabic, we can say it is sexual immorality. So, fahisha is sexual immorality, has these categories. These are the categories of fahisha: adultery, fornication, incestuous, homosexuality, prostitution, lewdness, pornography. Okay, these all are part of sexual immorality. Okay, the wide meaning of the word. But very quick thing here. But if I add definite article al at the beginning of it, then the word fahisha will become uh, the specific kind of sexual act. It could be any of these. It could be adultery, fornication, homosexuality, prostitution. Okay. And then the word meaning is only known to the prophet who was there when the verse was revealed, or unless God show us the meaning of it today. If I add al fahisha, I make the adultery, some certain type of adultery. Okay, but this is not topic of today's discussion. I'm going to cut it short and get to the point. So the zina will be one of them. Zina will be one of them. It could be either adultery, fornication, incestuous, homosexual, bisexual, or prostitution. That's what we need to find out. So zina is one of the category of uh, uh, sexual immorality. Zina, the word zina. It cannot be all of them. It has to be one of them. So what it is? It is incestuous. Guilty of incest. Mean having sexual activity between family members who are forbidden to marry, such as parents, sibling, uncle, aunt, brother, sister, and so on. This is the real meaning of zina. Alright? Now, it does not mean you are allowed to do adultery and fornication since their punishment is not mentioned in the Quran. You are not allowed to do so. But if you have done it, you may ask the God for forgiveness. He is the most merciful and He can forgive your sins. No one in the world has the right to punish you for the immoral act, by the way. Beside the rape, though, it is very low level, worst crime. It leaves scars forever on a victim. The person who commits rape by nature cannot be a believer at all. Again, Zina, according to Quran, is incestuous, having sexual activity between family members who are forbidden to marry, such as parents, sibling, uncle, aunt, brother, sister, and so on. Is there any verse of Quran to confirm what I just said? Yes, there is. It is Surah Nisa, verse known as verse number 23, regarding forbidden relationship. It is a long verse, by the way. You may pause and read it. These are the relationships that are forbidden. Did you notice all these are family members or close relatives? Right? In this verse. This verse is forbidding incest. No one is allowed to have a sexual relationship with their mother, sister, aunt, and so on. This verse is a commandment by God. This verse was the reason God decreed 100 lashes as punishment for those who break it. There are a lot of things to explore in this verse, but I'm gonna keep it short and tell you two very important things before moving on. This verse must be revealed to a prophet who was living where incestuous was commonly practiced among his people, because there were many cultures who used to practice incest back then. Even the marriages between close relatives were also practiced back then. There is no stronger proof of incest in Arab of Makkah, at least from Muslim authentic sources. Why would God send this revelation to Makkan, where pagan of Makkan never practice incest? I always say Muslim traditional history of Quran is 100% guess, and Quran itself demolishes it. So going back to verse now, it will make complete sense. First, Allah forbade them from incest. Then, whoever committed, He commanded 100 lashes for them. Okay. Incestuous male and female, then flog each one of them with 100 lashes, and you should not take pity on both of them in Allah's religion. If you believe in Allah and the last day, and you should let the group of believers be the witness of their punishment. So this is the punishment for incestuous zina in the Quran, and it is 100 lashes. There is no stoning to death punishment ever mentioned in the Quran. Other these verses, I'm just going to discuss a little bit right now. The third verse is actually an idiomatic expression, but they took it literally. Here, God is saying in an idiomatic expression that incestuous male and female should marry someone similar to them. Okay, or the liars. But believers are forbidden for them to marry. Okay, that is because they should marry someone similar like them, since God forbid them. The fourth verse is saying, and those who accuse the virgin female, known females of that time, the virgin females, remember there is al Jews here, Arabic al, and cannot bring 4 witnesses, you should flog them with 80 lashes and never take from them any testimony. And the fifth verse is saying, except those who repent and reform from all this, then indeed God is forgiving and merciful. These other verses are interesting, but I will discuss whenever needed in future. God is the merciful. You can only understand His mercy if you think about Him positively, and that makes you a believer. On the other hand, if you think about Him negatively, then obviously you will attribute lies towards Him. Harsh punishments such as hand amputation for theft and death penalty for adultery has no justification at all. These are barbaric punishments. Whoever thinks that God decreed these punishments is actually unknowingly exposing himself because that's what he wants. He has so much hate and cruelty inside him for people, he has no other way to let it out other than to see someone getting hurt. To achieve these things, people use prophets and messengers of God. To achieve these goals, they use prophets and messengers of God. They attribute lies toward them, such as Muhammad. So many lies attributed to him, whether it is, you can say it is one Muhammad, two, three, or four, that does not matter. But so many lies attributed towards him. You believe it or not, this is a real reason they praise him so much. In reality, they are not praising him. They are unknowingly praising their lies attributed to him. They are not protecting him. When they accuse other with a blasphemy, they are protecting their lies actually, which are they attributed towards him. There are so many other reasons why people believe prophets and messengers of God are so much perfect. Because if they face any prophet today, they can deny him. They can easily deny him. That, hey, you are not prophet. You are not so perfect. You don't have any miracles. And if any prophet today show any miracle, they're gonna say he is a magician, right? So anyways, I showed you so many ambiguities and contradiction in Hadith's narration of Muhammad, but they will still believe in it. Okay? My job is not to convince them, but to warn them, which I already did. Thank you.